I have Dian Taylor with me. Welcome, Dian. Dian has been working with Microsoft Dynamics CRM since 2011, and now she's a five-time Microsoft Business Applications MVP and a pre-sales director at RSM. Welcome, Dian. Would love to hear your thoughts and opinions in this podcast episode over here of what you think that, where Microsoft is headed, where Dynamics is headed, where the world is headed, whatever you want to talk about, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So would love that. And we're not wasting any time. We're diving right in. So here's the first question for Dion. Dion, you ready?
Absolutely.
Let's do this. AI. Everybody's talking about AI. Is it a game changer or is it just a buzzword? Microsoft has been on a absolute roll announcing AI-driven Copilot autonomous agents everywhere in Dynamics. There were four new sales agents just introduced just in the last release wave. Now, give us your no BS take. Are these AI features truly game changing for business, or is Microsoft just slapping an AI label on everything? What do you think?
I think it's probably a little bit in between. I do think that Microsoft and a lot of other companies out there as well are on the right path. I think it really helps if we're looking at, for example, customer service. I think the agents that they have brought out in that for customer service that are currently in preview. I did a couple of articles and videos on that as well. I was really impressed with that. I was
Hmm.
super impressed with that. Also, if you see some of the things that can be done, I really think that this helps customer service reps be less busy, so to speak, because these agents can do a lot of things for them, right? So, for example, you're talking to somebody either on the phone or through chat, and you're looking, this is what you would normally do, right? Before those AI agents were there, you would like look through the knowledge articles, you're putting in some keywords, you're finding 20 articles, you have to read through all of that. So now AI can help with those types of things.
Hmm.
Just like you said earlier, Microsoft brought out a lot of those sales agents right now, right? So what we've seen is a lot of stuff like researching in the background. I'm researching the leads that I have in my CRM system. So we also see some of the, I'm sure you've seen those as well, some of those AI capabilities where there's now emailing back and forth between the agents and between the lead, the prospect, and stuff like that, right? So that if you actually look at the research, and if you see that a lot of salespeople are still spending too much time, more than 50% on anything but selling, then I think they could be a real game changer once they mature a little bit more. I do think, again, it can be helpful. Like I said, what we saw earlier, by being able to send some emails
Hmm.
back and forth, being able to summarize emails. We've seen that for a long time now. Summarize documents, right? Pull documents together based on other documents, yada, 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 all that type of stuff. But I think it needs to mature a little bit more for it to really become a game changer. I think it also kind of depends on what you mean by game changer, but like
Yeah.
really flipping the things around, right? So,
Yep.
but yeah, I definitely think that it's more than just hype. But that's really what we thought when we first heard of this, right? At least that in the beginning, I was like, yeah, this is just hype. But yeah, just need a little bit more maturity, I feel. But yeah.
Yeah, a little bit of maturity is needed, but it's getting there. It's okay. Let me dig into this a little bit further. So you got AI bots, we got co-pilots, and they're all getting smarter. Like you said, they're getting better, and they're becoming true co-pilots for our pilots, which are the salespeople, the customer service, and everybody else, helping them, assisting them. Now, do you foresee these tools replacing any of the roles or tasks in sales and customer service, for example, or are they more about augmenting human professionals?
Yeah, I think it's more about augmenting. I think somebody, and I forgot who said this, but somebody made a comment one time when they were like, and this was in the beginning when Microsoft came out with like the summarization of emails and stuff like that, right? And here's a document, now summarize this document for me, that those types of things. And like I said, I forgot who said it, but that person said, look at it as an intern. Are you going to
Mm.
give work to an intern? Yes. Are you going to check the work an intern did? Yes, because they are an intern, right? So I kind of feel like where we are right now with a lot of these agents, we still want to be able to check their work, even if, you're building some AI capabilities yourself by, for example, using Power Automate and AI Builder and that type of stuff, you also see that you can build in a stop, right? So that somebody can actually go in there and check what has been done. Now, again, like you're saying, they're getting smarter and smarter, and there's like autonomous agents that we can now build, right? That can actually perform tasks, do things based on triggers. So let's say an email comes in, and we want something to happen. Let's say I send an email to this mailbox. Now I want to make a reservation in a restaurant. All of that stuff can be done. But again, I really feel that it's going to be more augmentation versus taking away jobs. But again, that's just my personal feeling.
Sure.
In 10 years, who
Hmm.
knows? Maybe we'll
Who
have
knows?
a Skynet doing, let's hope not. But
Let's
you
hope
never
not.
know, right? Because it's constantly evolving and it's evolving so quickly. But I
Yeah.
think it's really the point of this, of the point of AI is really to help people in their jobs, not to replace people. But again, just my
Yeah.
opinion. So,
And I want to go even deeper into this, Dion. Maintaining the human touch is something that many people are talking about. How do you maintain that, still amplify what humans can do? So, as you mentioned today, we have AI. It can draft emails, summarize notes, calls, etc. It can even create knowledge-based content automatically, which is awesome.
yeah.
But from a business perspective, does this actually improve the customer experience, or could it make interactions feel more impersonal and sometimes also introduce errors in there? How can
Oh,
companies,
yeah.
yeah, go
I
to,
think it's
mhm,
both. I think it's both ways. I think, like for example, some of these models, and we saw that also with the sales agents, you can now, I don't want to use the word train, but I'm going to say the word train. You can kind of say like, look, this is the way that our documents are written. This is our language as a company, right? And then you can feed that to the agents so that they actually sound like you. And
hmm
obviously you also can give it like let it you know, use your organizational data, your company data, and use other things as well, right? Other from other applications as well. I think it comes back to how good is your data? Because if your data is not good, then yeah, then you're probably going to not have the best experience as a customer. So then again, kind of going back to what I said earlier, I think there's still a long way to go, right? I still think that there's a long way for these types of applications to be better. So
hmm
probably right now, if we just do a quick draft of an email, you see that if you're inside of Dynamics 365, right, you do a draft real quick for me, and then you can say make it longer, make it shorter, make it friendlier, but it still doesn't sound like you, right? Or maybe it doesn't sound like you as a representative for a particular organization. But I do think it's gonna get better. But again, it's also what are we training these models of? Are we actually going to use the type of language that we use in our business, or are we just going to go like, oh, just make it sound more professional, and then it might not sound like you.
yeah.
So yeah, I think
So
there's probably going to be experiences both ways. Yeah.
what I'm hearing, if I have to expand on this further, is if it's grounded in you as the person, your voice, your company's voice,
Yeah.
and grounded in the data, then it becomes, of course, a lot more quote unquote like you, like Dion talking. But but if it's not, then obviously it's very generic. So we just want to, train these models as much as possible to have our voice, still have it be supervised, still maintain the human touch. So the example I can think of is, and sometimes I do the same thing where you have it make the draft of whatever it is, could be an email, could be summary, whatever, but don't share with anyone until you approve it. So you give that
Right.
human touch before you put it out there. But still, 70-80% of the work gets done without you having to do it, which is wonderful, right?
Absolutely. And again, that assistance, right? That intern that
Yes.
helps you get started, which again, depending on what type of email you're writing, that could save you, 20 to 25 to 35 to an hour maybe if you just tell Copilot or ChatGPT, like, look, these are some of the points I want to mention. Now go ahead and write it. And then you can go in and make it more sound like your voice, like you just said so as well. Yeah, no, I totally
Wonderful.
agree with that. Yep.
Awesome. Let's shift gears a little bit. We're going to talk about the community. Microsoft Dynamics community is such a vibrant community, and listening to the community is something that all of us as MVPs try as best as we can to do. And of course, we want Microsoft to be listening to that community. Now, in your case, Dion, you're not only a Microsoft Dynamics 365 expert, as I said, you're MVP and you're super active in the community. You're writing such amazing content. I learned a lot from you, as I mentioned to you before. My question is, in your experience, does Microsoft genuinely listen to feedback from the community and customers when evolving their products? Can you point to a time, for example, and you don't have to, but if you think of something where the community input clearly influence a change in the product and the process and services?
Yeah, actually, I I think it kind of depends on how many of us in the community, whether or not, MVPs or super users or customers, I think, that makes sense to me as well. If you want a particular product change or you want something to be added to the product, but you're the only person wanting that, then Microsoft is probably not going to do that, which makes sense to me. If I was the CEO of Microsoft, then I would probably not want to go that route either, right? But if you have a lot of people that are asking for particular features, then you want to make sure that Microsoft listens to that. But I also think that that was kind of the whole concept of the community, right? To be able to get that feedback from the end users, from the MVPs, right? People that are implementing this from on a day-to-day basis. So I do feel they listen. Again, if you're the one person that's asking that one feature multiple times and nobody and it's not happening, then I do understand that you don't feel that Microsoft is listening to the community. But I've actually had several times. One of them was where Megan, she's also Megan Walker is also an
Mhm.
MVP. We had some feedback on um, the security roles for views, and she started with the feedback, and then I saw her feedback. I tested it and I went in. I'm like, this is not what we want at all. And here's why. Because the way that other things work, like this, and this, and this, they went back, they fixed it. They told us, can you please look at it again, test it again, and let us know. And we were able to do that. And they changed the way that the product behaves. So that's a
Nice.
really good example of that. Again, I also feel like if you have a good reason of why you want something to change, and that's what we were able to give to Microsoft, right? Here's why this is not going to work, right? This now is not the way that people think it's going to behave. This is because of this, and this. I think if you give them feedback on top of feedback, right? I think that also helps kind of get the point across and make the product better. So my experience has been pretty good so far. So
Okay.
long-winded answer. Sorry.
No, no, that's good. Uh, so with Microsoft and making changes, if we go deeper into that, obviously specific to Dynamics, they come up with the release waves, one in the beginning or spring, one in the fall. Now these twice a year release waves that they're pushing out, how well do you think they're aligning these updates with what users are really asking for? Is the roadmap driven by customer feedback, or does it feel disconnected sometime from real world needs?
Yeah, I feel it's a little bit of both. Some of the updates, when we were talking about maybe a year ago or 2 years ago, I feel like there were a lot of updates in there where you can even see the references back to what was requested, right? On the
Mhm.
site that you can actually give feedback and say, hey, these are some of the features that we want. I just feel that lately, like the past 6 to 12 months, it's been very AI intensive. And I understand that because that's what the competition is doing as well, right? Everybody is full on focused on AI right now. So I get that. I just want to make sure that Microsoft also knows that there's also other things that need to be developed that might not necessarily be AI. So I get it, but it's not, there's also non-AI features that we need, right? So just wanted to throw that out there.
Love it. That's the
Yeah.
kind of stuff I think Microsoft needs to hear that yes, we want you to lead with AI.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We want you to stay relevant and compete with the other ones, which I won't mention, the other competitors. You know who they are. But at the same time, we need what we need right now because that's how we run our business in
Yeah.
CRM, ERP, and so forth. So I'm glad you said that. I completely agree with you as well. Now,
Yeah.
going deeper into that, Dion, if you had a chance to give some blunt feedback directly to Microsoft's senior leadership about Dynamics 365, what would you say?
Do you really want to hear this? Okay.
Yes.
So I would, based on some recent experiences that I had while I was writing my content and recording my videos, I would say, okay, I know stuff is in preview. Great, right? So we can go in there, we can set it up, we can test it. But if we cannot even set it up because there is no documentation telling us how to do it, or the documentation is incorrect, or it just doesn't work, don't launch it. Don't launch it in preview. Don't do it. It's very frustrating for us as partners to try and first of all get it to work, but also to have then positive feedback on it, right? If it doesn't work, if I can't even get it working in preview, I'd rather have you work on it a little bit more so it's a little bit better for us to start testing it out. Yeah, so I guess that's the main one that I would
Love it.
say. Yeah,
There's a saying, I think, let me see if I say it right, that you never get a chance to have a first impression, or you never get a second chance, I should say, to have a
at a
first
first
impression,
impression.
right? And that's what it is,
Absolutely.
especially for users. We're talking about sales, customer service, marketing, and whoever else that is in Dynamics. And they are trying to do their job, which is what they are hired for, what they get paid for. If they can't do it properly, guess what? They might not give it a second chance and go back to other tools. And we don't want them to do that. We want
Right.
to have the user adoption, have the enablement to be super strong in the Microsoft
Yeah.
ecosystem. So let's dig into it a little bit further. Why do you think companies keep failing at Dynamics CRM, specifically user adoption? What's going on?
I think the number one for me, I think, is still training, right? Not being trained on the platform, not having any idea as an end user what it does. What
Mhm.
are you supposed to do as an end user, right? If somebody says, "Well, here's your CRM, go log in," and that's it, and then they walk away, then that's very, very hard, right? But if they tell you what you need to do, and then you're confused about the interface, you don't know what all those different names mean, like account, contacts, lead, opportunity, because it happens, right? So I think
Of course.
that's a major thing. The other thing that we see a lot is bad data, right? So I'm in there, I'm trying to put a new account in there, I'm trying to qualify a lead. I have four of the same account names in there. Now I'm trying to like write a report. It's all going to be, it's bad because the data is bad. So that's another thing as well. And I think another one that we see a lot is that it's just not being pushed down from leadership. Here's your CRM system. Go track your lead and your opportunities. But if you do it in Excel, it's fine too. Okay, so who's going to put in the effort, right? To learn, right? Now you have to get the training that you're not going to get. I'm just going to continue to use Excel. Right. So I think those are some of the things that if people really focus on that, I think a lot of these implementations can be a lot better when it comes to user adoption. Yeah.
Yeah, leaders definitely set the example. One of the sessions that I deliver also, I talk about the five main things for digital adoption. And number one is having leadership, ownership of the tools that you're trying to push out, because if they don't do it, others won't do it.
Nope.
They set the example. And then getting into this deeper, having the tools that you provide, whatever it is, Microsoft or not, just make it simple, make it easy to use.
Oh yeah.
If you cannot have the actual vendor make it simple or simpler, you use something else. I mean, that's what we're in the business for also at VisualSP, to make things simpler for the user, at their moment of need. When I, as a user, doesn't matter if salesperson, customer service, whatever, when I'm struggling with something, the answer should be right there. as a guided walkthrough, an inline help icon, a banner, some kind of pop-up, something that just helps me, truly, truly helps me, instead of having me go somewhere else for the answer. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Having that inline training, just where I need it. So, like you said, so I don't have to switch applications and I don't have to go to, I don't know, like a SharePoint library trying to
Yeah,
find a document that tells me where to click and that type of stuff. That's really also what I love about the software that you guys actually support, that you guys sell, not well support as well, but yeah, that you actually it lives like right on that page, right? So I can just go ahead and click that button and then see what I need to do in order to create a new lead or navigate to a dashboard or fill in an opportunity or whatever you might need to do. I think it goes a long way, right? Because again, if people don't know what they're supposed to be doing and if they don't understand what is on their screen, then how are you going to make them use it? That's going to be impossible.
exactly.
So, yeah.
Yeah, since the beginning, Dion, you always have some pretty awesome words of wisdom, and today has not been any different. I appreciate it, and I'm sure everybody listening to it is also going to appreciate it as well. Keep doing what you do for the community. I really mean it. There's been a lot of good content. Even the first time I attended your session, I mentioned to you that, you know what, I learned this specific thing from your videos. So
That's
keep doing
awesome.
what you're doing. We all appreciate it. Thanks so much for being with me today, Dion.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, take care. Bye, everybody.
Bye bye.